If you knew that the antiperspirant or deodorant that you use every single day could actually make the very smell you're trying to cover up even worse, would you still continue to use it? And what if you discovered or learned that many of the chemicals that are used to create these underarm products that you use can actually be contributing to your fatigue and your exhaustion and making you feel tired all the time and could be putting you at a greater risk for bigger health problems? Would you still continue to use it, or would you seek to find a safer natural alternative? Well, look no more, because today I'm going to share with you some safe natural alternatives to help you stay fresh and dry so you sweat less and smell better. Does that sound good? If it sounds good, type good. I'm good here in the comments below, and give me a shout out and just say hello. So I'm Danya Fami, by the way, and I am the Alchemist in Chief at Sustainable Health Solutions, Inc. And I'm also the founder and formulator for Dropwise Essentials. And I'm on a mission to help empower you to take back control of your health by sharing vital information and advice to help you consistently make safer and healthier choices in your lifestyle. Not just products, but a lot of products. I don't want you to waste all your precious time and money and energy on seemingly harmless everyday products that actually secretly steal your vitality and energy, leaving you just tired all the time, right? Who's with me here? If you're tired all or most of the time, type the word tired in the comments below. I believe that knowledge is power, and when you know better, you do better. And that's why I want to share with you here today on this Wellness Wisdom Wednesday. Why it's important to take a look at safer natural alternatives to using commercial antiperspirants and deodorants. The reason that's so important is that many of the chemicals that are found in these products are absorbed into your skin through your armpit, and then they get into your bloodstream where they can't be easily metabolized and eliminated. So what happens is these chemicals just kind of stay in your body and they accumulate. They create something called a body burden, or they contribute to something called a body burden. And what that does is it puts your liver and your kidneys and your immune system into overdrive because they're working extra hard to try to eliminate these foreign substances that they're not designed to actually do. So what that does is that it creates a lot of trouble in your body, a lot of turmoil. And not only that, many of the chemicals that are used are what they call endocrine disrupting chemicals, which also can wreak havoc with your hormones. Just what you need, right? More of that. Who needs more of that? Not me. All these things, by the way, are some of the main contributors to your exhaustion and fatigue, which makes sense if you think about it, right? If your hormones are out of whack and your major organs of detoxification, your liver and your kidneys, are working overtime and having a hard time, now your immune system has to kick into overdrive too and work even harder to continue to try to protect you. So is it really any surprise that you feel so tired all the time? That's really the rub. That's why this is so important, and that's why I want to share with you today some healthier natural alternatives. So the three things I'm going to share on this Wellness Wisdom session is, first, I'm going to do a quick review of the problems and health concerns associated with antiperspirants and deodorants. For those of you who may not have tuned into my previous session on about the stinking truth about body odor, and if you did, good on you. Think of it as just a quick refresher of why we're even having this conversation right now. And then I'm going to share with you some natural ingredients that you can look for in a safer alternative. I mean, there are safer alternatives out there in the marketplace, not a ton of them, but if you know what to look for, that'll help you choose a safer product. And it could also help you make it yourself. If you'd like to do it yourself, I will also supply you with some information on how to do that a little bit later. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about what are some things you can do to help you sweat less, okay? Who's with me here? Type in the word fresh in the comments below, or just say hi. Okay, so for the most part, your sweat doesn't actually smell, interestingly enough, right? We think our sweat smells. It's not the sweat that smells. It's the bacteria that lives in your armpits and in the folds of your skin where it's damp and moist and humid that feed on the fats and the proteins that are in the sweat that comes out of your body that creates the stink. Now, we have two types of sweat. One's called apocrine and one's called eccrine. And eccrine is the vast majority of the sweat that we create, because out of the 2 to 4 million sweat glands that we each have, I know it sounds crazy, right? Vast majority are eccrine. And eccrine sweat is basically just water and salt. The sweat that's the problem is called apocrine, and that's sweat that's triggered by emotional stress and nervousness for the most part. And that sweat is a thicker, fatter sweat, and it has a lot of fats and proteins in it, and that's what the bacteria love to feed on. And when they feed on it, it creates all that stink. So the main thing about deodorants and antiperspirants is they take two like opposite approaches. So one approach is to kill the bacteria or create a hostile environment where the bacteria can't thrive. That's what deodorants do. And so if there's no bacteria there, when the sweat comes out, there's nothing for them to feed on. There's no bacteria there to create the problem. So there's therefore no smell. That's one approach. Antiperspirants take the opposite tact, which is that they keep you from sweating in the first place. They try to stop you from sweating by plugging up the ducts in your sweat glands, and that prevents you from sweating. So if there's no sweat coming out, there's no material for the bacteria to feed on, therefore no smell. It's problematic, though, because both deodorants and antiperspirants can be seen as interfering with your body's natural processes, right? And antiperspirants are worse because they keep you from sweating, and sweating is a vital function of your body. I know they can be embarrassing at times, especially if there is a smell, but the truth is sweating is actually really good for you. It means your body is doing its job. It cools you off when you overheat, and you overheat in a variety of ways. So you overheat when the physical environment around you is hot, whether it's hot weather or you're like in a sauna or you're doing Bikram yoga, or it also can get overheated when your body is metabolizing and burning the food that you eat for fuel, and when you physically exert yourself, like when you're working out or just like carrying heavy things around, walking up and down stairs, whatever it is. Any kind of physical exertion creates a kind of heat in your body, and your body immediately goes into sweat mode to try to cool you down. And then the last but not least is, of course, the emotional stress and the nervousness, and that's the one that creates the sweat that can become stinky if it's dealt with. So basically what that does is it keeps your body from doing what it's supposed to do. And the truth is, here's the truth, and this was a shocker when I discovered it from my research, which is that most deodorants and antiperspirants can't stop the apocrine sweat, which is the sweat that causes the stink. They can stop the eccrine, but not the apocrine. And then here's even more shocking and surprising things that have come to light, which are there are many studies that are now showing that routine habitual use of deodorants and antiperspirants can actually make more of the stink-producing bacteria in your armpits, making the problem even worse, right? So that's what I was asking about at the beginning of the session. It's like, if you know that, would you still continue to use the product? I wouldn't, right? What's the point? You're putting your health at risk, and you're not tackling the actual problem, right? So, and then also there has been a link, though inconclusive, there is a link between antiperspirants and breast cancer, because of the aluminum is the main ingredient in antiperspirants, and that gets into your sweat glands and your ducts, and there's some thought that it might actually travel into your breast as well. Not conclusive, but something to consider. So let's start by talking about some safer natural alternatives to commercial deodorants. So now that you know that the primary action of a deodorant is to either kill the bacteria in your armpit or to create a salty or a highly or an acidic environment, a hostile environment where bacteria can't really thrive, right? And then it also has chemical fragrances and things to make it smell good, right? So now that you know that that's how a deodorant works, you can turn your focus to finding a natural deodorant with natural ingredients that will do that job without posing the risk of harm, right? At the same harm that comes from absorbing these chemicals into your body. So the good news is that there's lots of plant-based and natural ingredients from essential oils and herbs that can produce both a deodorizing and, to a limited extent, an antiperspirant effect. So I'm just going to cover some of these real briefly, and then I'm going to share a link with you for a PDF of a blog post I put together on how to make your own safe natural deodorant spray. So essential oils, of course, are one of the key ingredients in a good deodorant, natural deodorant. Most essential oils are antibacterial, by the way. So you could do any combination and it will, to some extent, handle the bacteria problem. But I recommend that you include at least 1 or 2 oil that's like very, very effective at killing bacteria. So tea tree oil is one, and Manuka essential oil. Both of these come out of Australia. Manuka is a lot more expensive and it's a little bit harder to get, but it smells a little nicer. But tea tree is an important one. And then there are some essential oils that can actually assist in regulating the overproduction or overstimulation of your sweat glands. So they can help to inhibit the sweat production. But they don't do it, obviously, in the way that commercial antiperspirants do. And some of these oils are cypress essential oil, lemongrass, something called petitgrain, or petitgrain is a French name, Petitgrain is that. And that comes from the leaves and the stems of citrus plants. Pine essential oil, and then sage essential oil. So cypress, these last 5 that I just named, cypress, lemongrass, petitgrain, pine, and sage, in addition to having antibacterial properties, can help to reduce the amount of sweat. Other ingredients then that you can consider, like what you want to do is use things that are astringent, right? They're a little bit drying without being overly drying. So you would add your oils to some of these things: witch hazel extract, which is astringent and antibacterial. Apple cider vinegar is another one. May not like the smell of that, so you'll have to play with that. But it is antibacterial and it lowers the pH of the skin. So the deal with the bacteria is they thrive in high acid, low pH, which is acid, very low pH, and then high pH, which is alkaline. So you got to try to maintain a balance in the middle if you don't want the bacteria to thrive. Now, other things that are astringent that you could add to your mix or that you could look for in your product is sage tea or any other form of sage extract, like an herbal tincture, that kind of thing. The other thing is black tea, and you may have heard about this on TV. I think it was first came to light on the Dr. Oz show, which is that if you have smelly feet, you can soak your feet in black tea and it'll get rid of the smell. So you could incorporate that into your mix if you wanted to. Another herbal extract, which is astringent and antibacterial, is golden seal. And then now you want to, perhaps, if you don't want to do a spray, you want to do a powder, for example, then you want to incorporate some absorbent, or adsorbent is called, ingredients like baking soda is one, cornstarch is one, arrowroot powder is another one. And then another thing that I wouldn't recommend using this as the primary base, but adding it into your mix, which is either kaolin or bentonite clay. So kaolin, Kaolin, or bentonite clay powder, because these are extra absorbent. And then there's other ingredients that are safe to use as fillers or binders, and that includes aloe vera gel or aloe vera juice if you're going to do a spray, vegetable glycerin if you want to do a roll-on, because it gives it a little bit of a tackiness to it, thickness to it. Coconut oil is another great one. You could use a combination of coconut oil, shea butter, and beeswax or cocoa butter to create a solid, like a little solid that you roll on. And then you would add your essential oils and other herb properties to that. So, that's the cool part, because like I said, most essential oils are antibacterial and many are antifungal. And you can pick and choose your favorites for scent. And if you want to do a deodorant powder, you can grind dried herbs like lavender buds, lemon verbena, or rose petals in a coffee grinder and mix them in with the other powders that I just mentioned. But here's a little warning: whatever you do, stay away from any form of talc or talcum powder, because these are extremely toxic. If you inhale them, which happens because it's like this really fine, dusty powder, and you put that on, flies all over the place, and you inhale that. So if you'd like a copy of the blog post on how to do this, I'm going to post the link for you here. Hang on one sec. Oops, let's see. I did not want to do that. Okay. There we go. There's a link. And I'm going to post that in the comments below at the end of the session. But here's a link to download that, a PDF of that blog post on how to do it yourself. And it lists some of these ingredients that I just mentioned. And then last but not least in this category of natural is crystal deodorants, like crystal salt, crystal rock, Comes in a roll-on, and now it comes in a spray form. And what it does is it leaves a layer of natural crystal salts on the surface of the skin, which produces the hostile environment for bacteria. And it's totally safe. It's not like the aluminum salt, metal, aluminum variety of salts that are used in antiperspirants. And then this particular type of deodorant has been used throughout history in Thailand, in the Far East, Mexico, and several other countries. And it's actually the deodorant that I prefer and that I use when I do. So let's talk about some ways that you can sweat less, right? So what I'm trying to share with you here today is 2 approaches to addressing the odor, which is dealing with the bacteria using natural ingredients instead of chemical ingredients, and then how to reduce the amount of sweat. You can't stop sweating, and you don't want to stop sweating. So let's remember that sweating is actually a good thing. But there are things you can do if you some people tend to sweat a lot. It's a problem for them. And so if you're one of those people, then doing some of these can help you cut back on the amount of sweat that you produce. And when you combine them with some of these natural ingredients that I cover today, that ought to help you cover your bases in the safest and most natural possible way. So let's talk about some of these things. Number 1, stay hydrated. Very important. So your body is made up of more than 70% water, right? And aside from keeping you alive and moving along all the important processes that happen at a cellular level, it also helps you stay cooler, right? So when you're hydrated and you drink sufficient amount of water, it lowers core body temperature, and that means you don't have to sweat as much, right, to release extra heat because it's keeping you at an even keel. So on the other hand, being dehydrated can actually lead to more sweating. So that was number 1, is stay hydrated. Number 2, avoid overly spicy foods, right? Your body reacts to spicy food the same way it would to a hot, sunny day or to environmental heat, like heat outside of you. It makes you sweat even if cool, right, or cold. And basically, in addition to 5-alarm chilies and the really hot, spicy curries, some other substances that could contribute to making you sweat more are caffeine, nicotine, and then certain prescription drugs that can almost also stimulate your sweat glands. And then also drinking a lot of alcohol can actually promote profuse sweating too, because it increases your heart rate and then it dilates your blood vessels, and that gets the process going. So that was number 2. Number 3, cut down on junk food, right? Cut down on deep fried, fatty processed foods, and cut down on meat. So some people actually swear that a low carb or no carb, I don't recommend no carb, but a low carb lifestyle can be a cure for excessive sweating. And as I mentioned in my last session, there is research that came out of the Czech Republic that shows that heavy meat eaters have much stinkier sweat. So while meat may not make you sweat more, it'll definitely make you stink more. So it's definitely something to consider when you're looking at what foods to take out and what to put in. So what to put in to help is eating a lot more fruits and veggies, which are really good for you anyway. We all know that. They're very high in antioxidant content. But many fruits and vegetables are water-forming foods, so that when they get broken down in your body, they create water, which helps to help you stay hydrated. So it's another way to help you stay hydrated, and it helps to keep your core body temperature cooler, so that cuts down on the amount of sweat your body generates. The other thing is that when you have any kind of digestive issue, if your digestion is even a tiny bit off, that is another thing that creates heat and makes your body sweat. So eating more fruits and veggies can help kind of regulate or kind of make things better. So some typical water-forming foods are things like cucumbers, spinach, celery, watermelon, strawberries, lettuce, grapefruit, and so on. And then last but not least, and this is probably like a lesser known thing, which is you want to try to maintain a proper pH balance on your skin, okay? Because remember what I mentioned before is that bacteria thrives in either a very high pH, a high number, or a very low pH. Oh, sorry, high numbers are alkaline, low numbers are acids. It's confusing because it's the opposite. So a high pH means you're alkaline, a low pH means you're acid. So you want something in between. You want to maintain like a balance, which is somewhere between 4.5 and 6. And by the way, you can always check your body's pH by you can invest in getting a thing of pH strips. And in the morning when you first wake up, before you consume anything, you put that on your tongue, and then you can look at the color to see, and it'll tell you what your overall body pH is. So you can't really measure the pH on your skin that way, though. So that's too bad. But at any rate, a low pH, you want to use a low pH soap, okay, as your cleanser, because it helps to maintain what's called the acid mantle on your skin. And that's just a really thin layer of oil and sweat that actually protects your skin from damage and infection. So you don't want to mess around with that. And a lot of commercial body washes are made with sulfates and sort of really high, what do I want to call it? Like not industrial, but they're kind of really diluted forms of industrial cleaners that are put into these products. And so they strip away the acid mantle on your skin, leaving you exposed. And, and then that turns your skin into an alkaline environment in which bacteria can flourish in. So your best bet for that is stick with like natural body washes and cleanser, like, a Castile-based soap, something made with coconut, olive oil, hemp seed oil, and avoid those commercial detergent strength body washes. So, okay, let's recap. So, both antiperspirants and deodorants can be seen as interfering with your body's natural processes, and many of the endocrine disrupting chemical ingredients that are found in mass-produced versions of these products create inflammation and toxicity in your body, as well as throw your hormones out of whack. All those things can lead to you feeling tired all the time. And it's because, all your body's protective systems, your liver, your kidneys, your immune system are in overdrive trying to protect you from these foreign substances that they're not naturally inclined or designed to eliminate or get rid of. And there are additional health concerns connected with antiperspirants owing to the aluminum being the primary active ingredient in those products. And aluminum's been associated with Alzheimer's. It's also been associated with cancer. And because the thinking is that it sleeps in breast cancer, by the way, it sleeps into your armpits and then gets into your breast. That's a theory. It's not, it's not conclusive, but there's some reason for concern there. And then, of course, to add insult to injury, many studies are now showing that regular use of deodorants and antiperspirants can actually increase the amount of stink-producing bacteria in your armpits, which makes the problem about our body odor even worse. Right? And now that you know that the way that most deodorants work, which is that it's to kill the odor-causing bacteria or create an environment that's really hostile for them to live in, you can focus your effort and your attentions on finding or making a natural deodorant with ingredients that will do the job without posing any risk of harm. And like I said, the good news is there's lots of plant ingredients for doing that to create deodorants, and to some extent they have antiperspirant effects as well, which is kind of nice. And then last but not least, we talked about ways to cut down on certain foods that can make you sweat and replace them with foods that are cooling and hydrating, and make sure you stay very hydrated. So drink plenty of water to stay hydrated so that this keeps your core body temperature cooler and you don't have to sweat so much. All right. So that's it for this Wednesday Wellness Wisdom. I hope you found this information valuable. Share in the comments below what your biggest takeaway from today's session was. And I'm going to post the link in the comments below, and I'm going to put it up here again just for a minute or so, or less than a minute. Let's get in there. So here's the link to download the blog post with instructions on how to make your own natural deodorant spray. It also lists the ingredients so that even if you don't want to make your own, you have an idea of what kind of ingredients you can be looking at in other natural products in the natural foods world. And like I said, that's it for this Wednesday Wellness Wisdom. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.